It's out of our control. It's not like he wants to kill. He just doesn't want to die. You know what I'm saying? It's that situation when you got, we are living in a war zone. I feel like I can represent my generation so much because I honestly did not care whether I lived or died. But now, I cannot die. I can't leave until this straight. You know, I'm not suicidal. I can't go until y'all really know what time it is. And then after that, boom, it's all over. And we can see, you know, how this fall. But that's how it is. And the reason being is because if I can't live free, if I can't live with the same respect as the next man, I don't want to be here. Because God has cursed me to see what life should be like.
I said we ain't no loafers, we ain't no poachers, we ain't no haters of self, we ain't no vultures. This ain't our culture. I said this ain't our culture. I said we ain't no loafers, we ain't no poachers, we ain't no haters of self, we ain't no vultures. This ain't our culture.
I truly do not believe that y'all are listening to what the words are being said behind that song. He's saying we ain't no poachers, we ain't no vultures, we ain't no haters of self, we ain't no whatever. This ain't our culture. That's what it's getting to. You know what I mean? That's what it's getting to. Listen to the words on that. But top of the top to y'all, happy Macam Thursday. Let me go ahead and spit this disclaimer to y'all real quick. You know, because we're going to get into it. Some of this stuff I already know already offended somebody this morning. All right, just one person that made it clear that I offended them by what I said. All right, so let me go ahead and spit this disclaimer real fast. You know, you tapped into the Make a Culture Move podcast, and specifically top of the top with King Phillip, where we're talking about issues within the Black and brown community. You know, these issues don't get spoken on, it's taboo to even think about it. You know, to the point where these issues have become very destructive and deadly. All right. So, but with that said, too, a lot of these issues have been identified as experience based, meaning we didn't have to go out and do a whole lot of research to make us experts on stuff that we experience firsthand. All right. The experts, that's what they do. They go out, they do the research from us. They come collect our data to make them the experts. All right. But our experience makes us the experts. So I said all that to say, if we say anything that make you feel some kind of way, all right, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask you to please take the time to reevaluate why what was said made you feel that way. You do not have to be like, oh, I can't wait to give that nigga Phillip a piece of my mind. Oh, I can't wait till I see him. Oh, I'm just look at you like, oh man, not again. Come on, man. Really? Like, come on, seriously, instead of taking this time to do some self-reflecting, you want to bring this bullshit towards me? That's how I'm gonna look at you. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and get straight into it. You know what I mean? So hold on. We are not gonna get straight into it because y'all know we do our run through too. All right. So if you haven't, go check out the makeachessmove.org website. All right, we have a whole website. I'm asking you to click the donation tab, but I'm not asking you to make a donation. Click that tab, scroll to the bottom, and we have a toolkit on that. When you scroll to the bottom, click the toolkit. You can copy and paste an image, you can copy and paste the text that's in that toolkit, and you can send those images and that text off to, your folks on social media. You can text it to your peoples. You can send it to your email. You know what I mean? Send that to your people. You can even send it to your peoples that's locked up. Send them some money on JPay, and then that quick little text message. You know what I mean? That little message. Let them know that Malcolm is out here doing something. Intimate. Check that out. Also, if you haven't done so already, /Macam303, Facebook.com. If you haven't done so already, /Macam303 on the Instagram. Check out the Twitter, /Macam303. And don't stop there. Go ahead and check out the Pinterest. You know what I mean? /Macam303. Everything is /Macam303 because that's what we are about, making them chess moves, not part of the days, not half of the days, but all the days. All right. So let me go ahead and lay it out to y'all what we about to be talking about, because it's not just me. Let me bring our guests in. All right. Let me bring our guest in. All right. Just so y'all know, we got Black Kings that's going to be in this building, and we're gonna be talking about it. And I always say I've had a hard time. If y'all notice, the folks on the screen right now are not over the age of 40. All right. I've had a hard time getting people over the age of 50 to tap in to talk about this. These people have been so concerned or worried about their image. All right. So just to say all that, we went and dug deep to bring somebody, a living legend, just to speak on this. You know what I mean? So when y'all talk about, I'm worried about my image and stuff like that, we're going to talk about that too. But Brother Jeff, he's in the building as well to have this conversation on sex, to talk about sex. All right. So real fast, let me go ahead and get everybody to do a quick little introduction. Say what's up.
Let y'all brothers started. Well, my name is James Harvey. From the east side of Denver. I'm a real estate agent and business owner in the community. Just here for some good commentary.
My name's E. Huff. I work at the greatest place in the world, that it is Macca. I'm just happy to be here to join this conversation.
Man, Brother Jeff. Go ahead, Swift.
Swift Lunatic, a product of the East Side, Green Valley, Montbello, Park Hill.
Right on, Brother Jeff. Just like Swift and everybody else, just all sides, but founder and director of Brother Jeff's Cultural Center right there in the heart of 5 Points on the East Side.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, with that being said, y'all know, just to give y'all a little preface on where the ladies went on Tuesday. Y'all know the ladies, it was their idea, all right? I'm going to just put it out there to Facebook, to Instagram, to everybody on the YouTube, that this was the women's idea for us to put this dialogue together, all right? So with that said, too, it comes down to the point that I don't know if men truly have sex conversations, you know what I mean? But I think it'll be good for us to initiate this conversation, because that could be a problem within our community, that we don't have enough conversations about sex. We don't talk about how we can do it in a proper way. We don't talk about how we're supposed to court a woman and get to know a woman first in the head before we try to get to know her in the bed. We don't talk about these things. You know what I mean? So, and I know the order, how they went from it, how they talked about it was from beginning to end. From beginning to end, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to dating, that, so forth and so on. All right. So I'm going to put it out there right now. When it comes to kissing, we starting in the beginning. How do y'all feel about kissing? How do y'all feel about kissing? We're going to dive deeper into the conversation, but we're going to crawl before we can walk. All right. How do y'all feel about kissing? Tap in with me.
Anybody want to join in there?
When you're young, you like to kiss, you know what I'm saying? But as you get older, I don't think kissing is like a staple of a relationship until you get to know somebody, because you don't know where their mouth been. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just not about to kiss you off the bat like that. You know what I'm saying? Because and it's same for her. I wouldn't expect her to kiss me. She don't know what I've been eating and licking and vice versa and this and the third. Is you got to get to know somebody first before you can move on to that kissing phase. Okay,
let me ask a question though. You won't kiss her, but you'll probably get some head from her though, right?
She ain't kissing me though.
I mean, how come we'll get some head from her, but we won't kiss her? I mean, we talking about these issues. We ain't gonna skip around them. You know what I mean? How come we'll let her put her lift? Go ahead.
That goes in the saying of what you were just saying a second ago. How you start a relationship off is how you gonna end off. If it starts off with sex, that's how it's gonna end off. If it starts off intellectually, then it might go somewhere. But if the relationship just starts off as we hop, skip it, and jump in to this bedroom situation without any, you know what I'm saying, intellectual and get to know each other, then of course, that's how it's going to be.
Well, I mean, man, for me to just chime in on that, my main thing is, it's hard to generalize on a topic like that, and say what fits once again, like everybody. So when you talk about kissing or something as intimate as that, once again, it really depends on your style and the person that you're actually with. You know what I mean? I don't see or have or see any reason or any wrong with kissing or anything like that. I think obviously, you would like to, meet and get to know somebody. But, once again, it's hard to generalize for all relationships. Some people have met and got heated and, have made it a sexual relationship or have gotten into sexual acts earlier than what we would say would, be the right time for period to, meet somebody. But then those relationships have turned out into be great relationships. So, I mean, I think that it all really depends on the mindset of the individuals. Once again, especially talking about sex, the maturity of the individuals, the age, that kind of factors into all of that.
You on mute, brother Jeff. You were just going.
Well, hey man, what I would basically say that when you're talking about kissing, you're talking about also intention. Like, what is the intention behind your action? So say, for example, you're trying to get into a relationship and you're trying to meet somebody and be with somebody. That's different than, if somebody you're just trying to hit. And so it's all about the intention. And so kissing often, in a romantic or in a physical sense leads to perhaps that final act of intercourse. And so, I just think of it as a sign of affection. I don't know about this generation now. I don't know how closely they are entwined with what you call getting to know somebody, kissing on the first date. All that stuff used to talk about somebody's way of being. So kissing, there's no problem with it. Your grandma probably kissed you on the forehead. Your mom probably kissed you on the cheek. It just depends on what you're trying to do with that kiss, and so it usually leads to something else. And so you got to be real mindful of what you're attempting to do and what someone's attempting to do to you or with you.
And what type of kiss it is, though.
Yeah.
Because there's different types of kiss also.
Yeah.
I mean, to that point though, too, two things you had mentioned, brother Jeff, was intention and intimacy. I know somebody else had mentioned intimacy. You know what I mean? Like kissing is an intimate act. All right. But, again, in our community, I know brothers who won't kiss a girl, but they would get some head from her. Is getting head not an intimate act? Is getting head is that, when it comes to intention?
I definitely want to speak to that because I'm assuming safely that I'm the youngest in this group.
Yes, sir.
When I was in college, in my beginning years, I remember, and you want to talk about not worried about image, shit. I remember in my underclassmen years on the football team, we used to see like how many of us could have sexual interactions with girls without kissing them. And what's amazing to me about that is like when it comes to this kissing and like Brother Jeff said, talking about intention, it's amazing how like something as small, I mean, if you're mature enough and you see it, depending on how you look at it, like James said, something as small as kissing can be valued as something that you should save for your wife, something that you can save for like your significant other. But then there's some people that just can throw it away and mean it's nothing. So I don't know. I think kissing it's amazing to me because I think that is more of a more affectionate action on the intimacy side. But I think young men, have such a hyper aggression on having the more serious sexual interactions that we'll use kissing either as just a tool to get to other areas, as Brother Jeff said, whether in a positive way or negative way, or we'll just throw kissing to the side because we're so much more focused on the more deeper interactions. So it's just amazing how kissing is just thrown around at so many different levels. Some people treat it as, like James said, it's something that is super intimate. But I think for us younger generation, we're losing seeing it as an important piece of courting, an important piece of like true, real intimacy. I think it's so much more used as a tool or looked at as a negative way, like, damn, cuz you kissed her, like you know, it's amazing. It's just amazing how it flips in our community and how it really switches on different age ranges. Because I know kissing for my generation is completely different than kissing is from my great aunts or my grandmother's generation.
Well, man, sometimes, you know,
Okay,
I even like to think about, even like to think about it from a point of, I wonder if, you know, just within our culture, there are some things that we make taboo, or, you know, some things just because, you know, we listen to rappers, we listen to, you know, cats who claim to be players, and, you know, and then it depends on who you're kissing on. So, I mean, you know, especially when you're talking about college, you know, you have a lot of sexual freedom. You have a lot of people who are kind of running around and, you know, are with multiple people. So, I mean, you know, some of those intimate acts really end up having a negative connotation because, you know, you've been kissing on 3, 4, 5 people. The reason why it's kind of weird to me is that you'll have those same brothers who might not kiss somebody, but then to go have unprotected sex with the same girl. So, I mean, that's why I say, like, you know, I don't even know. A lot of it, sometimes I think it comes from even ignorance and, you know, us being in groups and hearing certain things and then getting shamed because you want to be intimate with a girl. Meanwhile, this dude doesn't kiss a girl, but he's over here getting women pregnant. My point of it is it's kind of weird. Some things, you know, as much as we might come at something like kissing, you know, then you have those, once again, those same people who are apt to, you know, perform oral sex acts and those different things, but then at the same time, shun or discredit anybody who's necessarily like kissing somebody. So, you know, sometimes I wonder, you know, if a lot of the stuff that we do and how we see things just comes from, you know, what we've been listening to and just seeing in groups and not necessarily what we really feel as, you know what I'm saying, just being naturally intimate as people.
You made a lot of good points.
I know for me, my significant other, we didn't kiss at first, but now if like she was to leave or if she was to go somewhere, because we have that bond now and that we've been together for so long, if she was to leave and walk out of the house, I have to have that kiss. I have to have that, mwah, you know what I'm saying? To let me know that, you know, it's just something that is something. But I just can't go out and do that with my homegirl or somebody I'm cool with or just somebody I was just fucking around with. It's not going to happen. See, kissing to me, it means something real special. It means something valuable. So you have to be mine, and you have to have that for me to really just want to just put my lips on you, because I can't just go around kissing other women like that, because nowadays, the women nowadays, they all about that sex talk and shaking their ass and who can swallow the biggest dick and all that. And I don't want to be just kissing on no shit like that. That's not that. Cardi B got all these women fucked up.
You know, when and I'm gonna jump in there every time. Man, the one thing that I try to bring to the table, or always try to say, people always say this time, like, you know, these women, like, you know what I mean, as opposed to thinking or believing that, you know, in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s, in the 60s, people were doing a lot of the same things, if not more. You know, I think a lot of the reason that we see some of this stuff and we claim that women are so terrible now, and, you know, all of these people were just doing lascivious sex acts just for the hell of it, is because, once again, this is more of a virtual world where we see everything. But people was just as wild in the 60s and the 70s as we are now. There is no different. You know what I'm saying? The same sex acts that these young girls are actually taking part at are the same ones that our parents and our mothers and these women that we hold in high esteem because we've only known them to be adults. They're the same stuff. So I don't really believe that now is so much worse than the past. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, to that point, we got Brother Jeff to speak on it. You know what I mean? Was there a difference? Were the women then, you know what I mean, back then, were they moving like the women are moving now?
Let me put it in this context, because, like, you know, there's nothing new on it. But here's the difference. Right now, if you talk to individuals in our community, most individuals know somebody that's been incarcerated or is incarcerated. Like, the prisons is overflowing with our community. So if you said to somebody, such and such is locked up, folks were like, oh, well, that's just what it is. And so when I was coming up, the person who was incarcerated was that one person. You know what I mean? Don't be like such and such. Why? Because such and such is incarcerated. So when we start talking about, kissing and respect and relationships and disrespect, some of what I'm hearing is this: there are a lot more women or others that are doing things that only a few people would do back in the day openly. And so what you're talking about in terms of kissing is like, okay, there's that hoe over there. There's that rat. There's that one that's doing it with everybody. Like, you can't get it nowhere, but everybody's hitting this one. Everybody's trying to run a train on this one. So it might have seemed cool, but it was just basically, this is the one that would do that. And now somebody said, you kissed her. And so like, oh, everybody's hitting that. What you doing kissing her? You're like, I didn't kiss her. I just hit it. You know what I mean? And so today, It just seems to me that there's a lot more out there. You know what I mean? Like, it's in the water. It's like, I don't know if it's reversed, where it's like, this is the one over here that I would like to kiss, but she ain't kissing anybody. You gotta do this. She ain't doing that until she get married, or all of those different things. So I just think it's more now. And so it seems that there's the attitude like, we don't kiss women. Like, we just don't do that. You know what I mean? Unless it's a very special one. And the special one is very hard to find.
Now, Brother Jeff, let me ask you. Go ahead, Swift.
I said, and that's what I was saying. Pretty much is what Brother Jeff was saying, was like, you have to be that for me, not just me, for the generation of men now. You know what I'm saying? You have to be that special one, because you don't know what women and men are out here doing. That goes for men too. Men can be walking up and down the street, licking every cat walking up and down the street. You just don't know, because sex is so in these days, and oral sex, and who can do this and who can take your soul and who can do this and who can do that. It's just so it's so in the now that you just can't. And it even goes with intercourse. You can't trust who you're kissing or who you're fucking now, because STDs and all that shit on your mouth, is common now. It's more common than it was back then than it is now.
It's just crazy to me. I want to bring this kind of back to men though. What trips me out is that we talk about, okay, a woman's supposed to have this if we go kiss her, but we don't glorify none of like wifely behavior. And I can really speak that for my generation. My generation values the promiscuous woman at 100%, like 100%. Like, as a young man who, I always say, like, when I went to college, I did a lot. Like, I was definitely one of them cats that was really wild. And so I've really tried to be more on the back end side, getting out of college, to be more mature, especially when it comes to relationships. And it's just amazing to me that when you're a young man that's in the space that I'm in, and not to knock any of my other brothers, not saying they want more and they want a good woman, but I'm just in a specific space where some of that promiscuous behavior, I just don't want it expressed, like on the expressive. I just feel that should be only for your man. But even finding a young lady who is not expressive with her sexuality, not saying that's wrong, that's just not my taste. And trying to find a woman who is reserved, conservative, and only wants to share that kind of behavior and that side of her with only her significant other, I'm trying to tell you, gentlemen, for age ranges 18 to 30, that shit's damn near impossible. Like, it is damn near impossible. And it just amazes me, because to speak to kind of both to what James and Brother Jeff was saying, I would say it's got to be a little worse today, because I look at, because I ask a bunch of damn questions I should have never asked. So I would ask, like, the older people, like, about what age did y'all start having a good amount of sex? I'm not talking about lose your virginity. I'm talking about having a lot of casual sex with multiple different partners. Older generation, 19, 20, 21. I had partners that was having casual sex with multiple girls at 12, 13 years old. And I know girls that was having casual sex with multiple partners at 11, 12, 13 years old. And I think some of that also plays a way into how, as men, we have let these sick ass bastards molest and touch our young ladies for so many years that they're becoming sexualized so much younger. So has it always probably been in our blood? Hell yeah, because I believe we sinful people. But that actual sexual behavior being cultivated as in a society and grown and having kids grow up and nurturing it is at a rate I don't think we've ever seen before. Because you'll see a 15, 16-year-old girl on Facebook sharing videos of sucking dick and doing crazy stuff. Like, where's her mama? But her mama's actually in her friend request. Why? Because her mama had her at 17 and she watched her through her 20s do all that crazy stuff. And I just don't think the older generation was really putting that out front for the generation that I'm a part of like they did for y'all.
Now, when I jump in here, man, I got to jump on y'all because I definitely agree that I think that it's starting out sooner. You know what I mean? Especially when you're talking about the internet, these kids having access to, I mean, you know, when we was kids, in order to get access to porn, you had to actually get a video, take time to, you know, hope nobody's in the house, put the video in, you know, now you can just go to the bathroom, throw on your phone, dude. You know what I mean? So I definitely agree and I understand that. But man, it's hard for me to just once again say that these kids are so much worse just because I have plenty of stories and I wouldn't necessarily share them just because it's personal to other people. But even my parents, my aunts, my uncles dealing with STDs, dealing with, you know, all of this different type of stuff that was happening widely in the 60s and the 70s. Like, you know, one thing that Brother Jeff said that really struck me is it out in the open. You know what I mean? And I really do believe that, you know, at least now, you know, we can actually start seeing what's going on in people's minds that's real. One thing that I think that the older generation benefited from, or not even necessarily benefited from, but I think a lot of stuff was hidden from homosexuality to people's sexuality. You know, there was a lot of brothers back in the day who, because they couldn't be out in the open with it, you know, were having families and were homosexual. There's a lot of people going underground with their sexual acts back in the day because they couldn't be out in the open with them because they would be vilified. So, I mean, you know, now I just honestly believe that it's more acceptable, of course, to be out in the open with your sexuality. But I think that it's not necessarily a bad thing as much as people need to be taught how to manage this stuff in a good way, especially health wise. You know what I mean? But
I feel you on that.
You absolutely right, because you got to remember, even in the 70s, there was this whole free love, free sex kind of movement. And I don't think there's anything different. It's just what people would do openly. And today with social media, you're able to see everything everyone's doing and they're willing to share it. Like they're willing to share it. They're like, this is what I'm doing. There were times where, you know, folks were doing it, but they just, you know, they didn't put their business out there like that. And as a young person growing up, you know, in Park Hill and on the east side, it was like, yeah, we wanted to do it. Like we would talk about all of the stuff that folks that younger now are actually doing. Like we had the Playboy magazines. You know, we had to sneak off and find and look at them centerfolds. You had Jet magazine where that sister was in there with the bathing suit on and folks, you know, looking. But we used to talk more about what we was doing, but wasn't really doing it because we couldn't find nobody to do it with. But if you found somebody who was doing it with everybody, that's the one that nobody was gonna kiss. But that came along a lot later. But 12, 14, all them young ages is like, you didn't find a whole bunch of 12-year-olds running around like that because they was with their family. They was up in the church. You know what I mean? They was in different, we had a community structure where kids were being governed by adults. Now kids are being governed by kids. And I always Phillip, when Phillip asks, I always say, he says, Brother Jeff, what was the turning point? And I always tell him one word, it's called crack.
Yeah.
Crack changed that whole thing that made folks chase after things and do things that they wouldn't necessarily do, but they started doing it behind addiction. And so you started seeing people selling their kids, and you know, you started seeing grandparents running up and down these streets. You started seeing all kind of stuff, all behind addiction. And it just got worse and worse from there. But when you start talking about racism and all of these killings of black folks, and It's social media that's showing that. But that stuff's always been happening. I don't even know if it's worse. I just think it's more seen.
Let me tap in real fast. Y'all know Nisha, she don't play. You know what I mean? She has said, y'all walking around the question, is kissing a part of sex? Why are you so adamant that you protect the sanctity of your mouth? Because you don't know a woman. You don't know a woman well, but you're willing to jeopardize the sanctity of your dick by putting it into a pussy that you aren't sure about. If she's safe enough to fuck, why not kiss her? If you're all in, you're all in.
I mean, you can't say it any better than that, because I don't think the kissing is about the safety. Because if it was about safety, I see a lot of brothers doing this.
Hey.
Everybody's mouth is on it at the same time. That's kissing. Like if it's about protecting your mouth, you sharing a whole bunch of stuff with your mouth with the same folks that you saying, I ain't doing that with her. I think there's this attitude of what I do to protect my manhood that shows me that I'm more hard as it relates to, these women. Even when we start talking about sex, and to answer the sister's question, I said that kissing leads to something. It's the intention behind it. But if you think about when we start talking about sex, you're talking about a culture that says, what did I do? I hit it. I beat it up. I smashed it. You know what I mean? And that whole nomenclature is like, yeah, I beat it up. I smashed it. I pounded on that. And so
they making songs on that now. I beat the pussy up.
I beat it up. Like, who wants to be a part of that? If that don't sound abusive.
But I want to speak to that, Brother Jeff, real quick, because that's real. Because I would answer Nisha's point real raw and honest, is that, and this is real raw, you know what I mean? Niggas is just trying to fuck. They don't want to make love. And we have a very clear distinction between trying to get our nut and avoiding making love. And for my generation, we are deathly afraid of intimacy, like real connection, real love. And niggas ain't trying to, like, we're in love with being detached. Like, we are in love with being hardcore. We're in love with being the hardest nigga in the hood. We're in love with being gangster. So anything that softens us up and makes us feel that vulnerability, that human side, we be like, oh, hell no, nigga, I'm not participating in that. So when it comes to kissing, and I'm speaking for my generation, they be like, nah, I'm not gonna kiss you, because that's me showing a sign that I love you. And I don't want to show you that I love you. I just want you to know what I'm here for. And I think that's why dudes ain't kissing and they don't give a damn. It's that intention part of, my intention here is to get this nut and get out. My intention is not to value you, because kissing, when you kiss someone, that, I'm speaking for my generation as a man, that feels like I'm giving something to you. And a lot of men in my culture, we walk into sex only to get, not to give whatsoever. So a kissing action is something like, oh, I'm actually giving you something. I'm giving you a piece of me. I'm giving you my love, or giving you a piece of my image. And we like, hell no, I'm not trying to give you anything. I'm only trying to get. And
but that's crazy, man. That has to be like a perversion of the mind. And that's what I'm saying. Like, because that's going back to what Nisha said. How do you won't kiss a woman, but you put your dick inside of her? Like that doesn't equate. You know what I'm saying?
But you don't see it. But you don't.
Hold on.
That's what I'm saying. The perversion mentally is just because it's like, once again, I think a lot of these views that young people have, and it goes back to what your brother Jeff said. So instead of worrying about a man taking care of his family, a man handling his business, a man being a man, we're worried about stuff like you're not a man because you kissed this girl. You know what I'm saying? Now, once again, I understand not wanting to kiss the girl that's sexually promiscuous with a lot of different people. But even going back to what Huff was saying about young men, a lot of us, or not just a lot of young men, even younger than me, are just like, oh, no, I don't want a part of that. But then we have all of these young men having babies, you know what I'm saying, at right 20, 21, 22, but they walking around tub saying, I won't kiss a girl. Like, it's to me, like, once again, it goes back to some perversion mentally, because we're not taught what real men do. If you decide to kiss a woman, don't decide to kiss her, if it's your style or not, that has nothing to do with being a man. You know what I'm saying? Literally nothing. That is just your sexual choice. That is what you like to do, your sexual proclivity. But I mean, you know, once again, it's just, to me, it's like a perversion mentally, because like Brother Jeff said, we got kids listening to kids instead of kids actually taking from adults.
Man, that's everything. Like the older I got, the more I learned that what we thought was wrong with women that would allow, or girls that would allow us to do to them what others wouldn't allow. We weren't disrespecting her. We were disrespecting ourselves. You know, I'm like, that has nothing to do with her. Like what she will allow me to do and all of that speaks more about me. Mm-hmm. In other words, like, why would I do that to somebody? Like, why would I treat somebody in a way that I wouldn't treat my mom, my sister, my niece? And then I'm gonna get upset when somebody else comes and treats my mom and my sister and my niece the way I'm treating your mom and your sister and your niece. I'm like, all this has to do with me. And if it comes down to saying, I just want to bust a nut, then be specific about that. Like, it's an agreement between two individuals. And if that's what you want, and that's what I want, let's agree to that. But if we're talking about being in a relationship and you like kissing and I don't, maybe we won't be in a relationship because we don't like the same things. So everybody's gonna be able to find what they want, but you can't put everybody in a package. Like, some folks don't kiss because they might have been molested after being kissed by someone they didn't want to kiss. So people do a lot of things for a lot of reasons, and some of it has to do with machoism. But if you look at everybody that's been hurt, killed, maimed, and incarcerated, a lot of that is around a woman they said they didn't want to be with, but then somebody got with them, and now you in your feelings, you wouldn't kiss her, but you kill somebody that
life. Won't kiss her.
Oh man, that's a cold shot right there. That is a cold shot right there. You know, it's you know, so that brings me to my next point. You know, we spent a good minute on kissing. You know, so y'all women, y'all know how important kissing is. You know what I mean? To men. You know what I mean? I mean, women, they all agreed that kissing was like, yeah, definitely. If we vibing it, yeah, and kept it pushing.
We got to get 37 minutes in on that real quick.
Right? So I mean, is that something culturally? Again, coming back to it, is that something culturally? Because I dated white women. You know what I mean? Not even dated white women. It was just me. I had a couple of them that knew about each other. You know what I mean? And, you know, me, I never been the kissing type, period. You know, but I don't know if it was more towards black women where I was not more kissing, or more towards white women. What is it? Is it black women? Is it our culture that just don't kiss? You know what I mean?
I think white women kiss. I think white women kiss because they ain't, like, I don't want to take away from some white women that have been through some things, but white women don't have the same level of trauma generally as black women do. So even breaking that intimacy barrier with a white woman is 10 times easier than breaking it with the black woman, because most of the time, at least with my experience with white women, they're usually the aggressor. At least in the space where I was in, they're definitely there for you, or they're at least waiting for you to come get them. So then, you know, kissing, they're ready to show their affection. They're ready to show that intimacy off the bat, just to court you, just to get you as a man. But with a black woman, it's more so, you know what I mean? Because at least with me, some of the black women I've come across, they're not always the biggest kissers, and that's because they also don't want to have that level of intimacy, because on the flip side, they don't trust us. Like, do I want to let you even do that to me and like make me feel that way? Because I don't know if I can trust you, and if I do trust you, is how is you go do me? So I don't know. I think black women, it's harder to break that barrier with, because they don't trust, and they got a lot of trauma.
Okay, that's a good point. That's a good point.
I've heard.
Go ahead.
I've heard, just like Huff said, I've heard from a lot of black women, I don't kiss because I don't know where your mouth been. And that's common for a lot of black women to say, oh, no, I ain't kissing you because I don't know where your mouth been. I don't know what you've been doing. And it's vice versa for men too. I ain't gonna kiss you because I don't know where your mouth been and I don't know what you're doing. So yeah, I agree with Huff 100% on that one.
I mean, so
once again, man, I'm gonna jump in there, bro, because I'm not gonna let y'all all slide with that one,
Don't
bro.
ever let me slide.
I'll tell y'all right now. For one, I'm not gonna say that I ran into white women and black women who don't necessarily love kissing, but I've ran into a lot of black women who like to kiss. Same thing with even white women. But my biggest thing is, once again, now we're gonna start talking. I know black women who, once again, won't suck. You know what I mean? Won't commit oral sex acts, but once again, won't make a man put a condom on. I've been more apt to, you know what I'm saying, have a white girl who made what you guys say, into kissing, into some of these sex acts, but will make sure that you have a condom on before you go inside her. The only women that I've ever been around, black and Hispanic women, I ain't gonna lie, though, and predominantly them who never cared if I wore the condom, would try to pull it off, tell me they don't like condoms, black and Hispanic women. So this is weird. Once again, you won't kiss me, but then you'll let a man go inside you raw. That does not make sense. It doesn't equate. That is a perversion mentally. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, think about kissing. You know what I'm saying? This, once again, comes from rap. We don't want to kiss a girl because you thinking of something else is in her mouth. Obviously, that's just what we're talking about. She's been with other dudes. She's been kissing on a lot of dudes. She's performing sexual acts with these dudes. But man, I'm saying something small as kissing is crazy. How much we hold that up and then once again allow somebody else access to our body in plenty other ways, but then say, "Oh, but I won't kiss you." That's weird to me, man.
But then what flips that whole thing around is now that if there are a lot of folks that are openly willing to have sex but won't kiss, that means that the kissing is more valuable than the sex today. Like, if you kiss somebody, you're like, man, that is a sure sign of intimacy. Because when I was growing up, coolest, like, kissing represents affection. You know what I mean? And everybody in their nature wants to be loved, appreciated, and have affection. And so holding hands, like, if you won't kiss, will you hold her hand in public? You know what I mean? Well, why won't you hold her hand? Because that shows affection, that shows connection. Will you kiss? Nah, because that shows a level of connection. And so back in the day, kissing, that was all you was getting. It was like, if you could get all the way into the other end, you'd have made
the man.
you was the man. But if you got with a sister, it was just like, and got a kiss, that might last you for a month. You'd be like, "What? Hey, Phil, what? Man, I kissed her." Like, what? But you get hugs and daps. You like, you kissed her? She let you kiss her, and that's a peck. What if I said, "No, we busted slob. I tongue kissed her." What? What?
Are you cold?
You tongue kissed her? Now it sounds like folks is like, I ain't kissed her, but I smashed it.
Yeah.
But if you kiss her, folks is like, you kissing? You must really be into her.
I mean, it's so to that point right there, Brother Jeff, are we giving it away too easy?
Oh man. Well, it sounds like giving it away is the start of the conversation. Like, from what I'm hearing, like, it ain't too easy. Like if you could hit somebody after the club that you just met, that you just got a drink with, that says a lot. You know what I mean? Like, person says, "What you doing?" "I'm going to the club to meet somebody I don't know, buy them a couple of drinks, take them home and hit it." That's an interesting trajectory. Are we giving it up too easy? It sounds like giving it up ain't the hard thing to do. The hard thing to do is to get a kiss.
Some women are just.
Did he exit out on us?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. No, I agree with it. But it once again, my question to y'all is crazy, because I'm right where y'all at. It just seems like everything is backwards for us, like completely backwards. And that's my thing, even because I understand exactly what y'all saying. It makes complete sense why kissing would mean so much more intimacy now, because we have just kind of reversed and we starting at the end and then working our way to the front. You know what I'm saying? And that's absolutely crazy. But I mean, my thought that came to my mind is, once again, should kissing hold that value? You know what I mean? Like, once again, like, where do we go? Because I honestly think that that's a problem. You know what I mean? That we've obviously reverted to, starting with sex and then working back to more intimate things, like, or more, things that are seen as intimate now, like kissing and stuff like that. Like, how do you change that mindset? How do you get people? Because my main thing, even thinking about my daughter, you know what I mean? I think that there's just certain things that kids shouldn't be doing, especially in today, at least like college level, 2021. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, oral sex and all that stuff. Like, bro, I'm amazed by kids jumping into that, you know what I mean? Or young men, you know what I'm saying, committing oral sex acts in women in high school. I'm like, bro, that's way too early to be starting that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, there's certain things that have almost like, you shouldn't be doing this till you reach a certain age. How do y'all see that? You know what I mean? What age do you think is appropriate for people to start committing sexual acts, like actual intercourse, oral sex, all that different type of stuff?
Well, I want to jump in real quick to answer that. I think that it should be an age whenever you can understand real intimacy and real connection, because like when I hear this conversation talking about should we kiss before sex or not, that wouldn't be that big of a question if you was in an interaction with someone you really gave a damn about. Like, if you was in an interaction with somebody you dated for 3-4 months, maybe y'all haven't had no physical interaction, and you decided to value other forms of intimacy, or mental intimacy, spiritual intimacy, whatever other forms you can find. If you value that and you're getting ready to, and you look at sex as part of just the greater sexual, as a part of sexual intimacy, then you walk into the situation like, we already have everything covered. We're now working from the back forward, are working forwards, backwards, or however you say it. You know what I mean? We already have that real connection and love. So now we can walk into this at whatever preference, because maybe she just don't like to kiss. Like, I've been in a relationship with a girl who wouldn't let me go in her unprotected, wouldn't let me do none of that, but she just was not a kisser. She just did not enjoy the kiss because it just wasn't her thing. But that the order of the actions was never wrong, because we actually took the time to get to know each other, really have real feelings for each other. So I think the age you should start sexual interactions is after you have the maturity of understanding what you want in a person who you're going to be sexually intimate with, because all the kissing, all that shit is preference. Like, it shouldn't have to necessarily, I feel the reason, because we're so focused on sex and we have to like order it so it looks better. But if we just value the other things first and foremost, those other things would be more preferences versus, damn, how do we go about this shit correctly? It shouldn't even, that should be the back burner of things, at least in my opinion.
Man, okay, but what about when you meet that woman and y'all may kiss and y'all may be on that kissing level, but she is the woman that does not want a relationship. She just wants you for that nut. And like, some guys is cool with that. It's like no strings attached. We could just bam, 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 bam. But the only time y'all kiss is when y'all in that moment when she calls you over for that booty call or whatever it may be, or it's not an intellectual thing. It's just a for that moment thing. It's a lot of women and men out there, and some women do come at men and be like, I'm feeling you, I'm digging you, but I just want you as a nut. And a lot of guys would be like, hell yeah, no strings attached. Hell yeah, I'm with that. I'm with that. Some guys would be like, you gotta be grown enough to accept that. I want something more. Huh?
You know what I'm saying? You gotta be grown enough to accept that. I feel like, to speak to what James said earlier, is that a lot of these things we talking about, and why we were talking about why it's so troubling, is because these is kids having this conversation. Everybody in this conversation is a grown man, an adult. You know what I mean? And this,
I'm talking about grown women. It's a lot of grown women.
Yeah.
It's
but
a
that's
lot of
what I'm
grown
saying.
women.
You have to have that agreement, though. Like, as if with a woman or a man, the both of them have to have a level of maturity of understanding whatever we are walking into, we can handle it.
Yeah, and I mean, that's coming from Huff, who don't have any kids. You know what I mean? Who don't have daughters at that. So considering that too, young Swift, Jeff, James.
But
Well, James's question: how long?
I like how the direction that this is going, because we talk about these teen mothers. I was a teen father. You know, you ain't gonna have no teen mothers without having teen fathers, or there's a lot of us get off the hook behind behaviors that we engage in, but we don't know about the responsibility attached to that. And it's usually left to the woman or the girl and the girl's family to hold the bag. And so when Swift talks about, what women want and what men want, I like what he's saying, because you're talking about an agreement. If someone tells you, I just want to get with you, I just want to have a nut, and you're like, that's what I want to do, and we got an agreement, then it's an agreement. And so don't talk about anything after the agreement if you get caught up in your feelings and I decide I want to do something different. We went into something and said, at a mature level, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. Now, when James talks about, and Elijah talks about these young kids, like, what do you do when you find a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 14-year-old that knows even how to have oral sex, or knows that that's what they like, or that's what they want to do? Something happened to that young person that we as adults need to be trying to figure out. Why does this 12-year-old know how to have oral sex, or this 10-year-old? Because if you have someone that early knowing what they like and what they want to do, something was done to them that shouldn't have been done to them, or something they were exposed to something, and that's abuse. And we as a community need to quit hiding and keeping Ray's secrets, Uncle Johnny's secrets. We know he's a molester, but just don't sit on his lap. Don't let the kids be around him. At what point are we as men or as a community going to say we're going to take responsibility and wait till a child becomes an adult or an age of discretion to determine what they want to do with their body, as opposed to putting them in situations that they learn a norm that is unhealthy and broken and continue that particular cycle? So until we fix our community and say, you ain't gonna molest these young girls, you ain't gonna molest these young boys, and we don't even talk about the boys that's being molested. We don't even talk about what's happened to us, because that's what really hurts these men, to say that they're so macho because they hiding behind something that happened to them as a kid that wasn't supposed to happen to them. Then they get hyper masculine, say I ain't kissing. They ain't kissing because they uncle kissed them and did something to them. And now all of a sudden you got a train wreck inside of the family. And until we fix what's really going on, you're gonna see little girls shaking their butt and getting on television or on the screen having oral sex, and we're gonna be like, well, it's just that folks do things at a younger age. No, them folks is abused. Those folks are experiencing a crime, and we as men should step up and say that don't happen in our community.
As the generations differ, you also got, I know growing up, seeing my mom and my aunties and the older women that I grew up, they didn't dress with they ass hanging out, and you know what I'm saying, when we rode in the car, we didn't listen to the music and we wasn't introduced to all that rigmarole is what I'm gonna call it. But the moms today, their daughters are seeing them listening to the music, dressing the way they dress it, smoking blunts in front of them. See, our generation, our parents try to hide that as much as they could from us. We didn't get to see all of that. So now the girls that's growing up now, the 12 and 13-year-olds, that's what they see and their parents and stuff doing. That's what they see, and they thinking it's cool. See, when I was growing up, we wasn't exposed to all of that. We wasn't exposed to seeing our moms and our grandmas and our aunties and our this and that, shaking their ass and get ready for the club, and this every other nigga on the phone, and you coming over tonight, I got to put the kids down, and this and that and the third. Same for men. It was hidden from us. Now, the younger moms and the younger women, they're so comfortable being around their kids, and their kids are seeing so much of it that they're learning how to kiss a man from seeing their mom, because their moms are doing it in front of them. they're learning how to dress and have their ass out. And I've seen so many Facebook posts of women shaking their ass with their kids in the backgrounds and this and that. So they're learning to be sexual before the age of being sexual, before we can have that talk with them. It's coming out way, way, way too early. And I leave that on some of us, the young mothers, and some of us, the old mothers, not teaching the young mothers how to be old mothers.
I mean, we putting it off on the women and leaving the fact out that some of the men are not active in those households.
I said men too.
You know what I mean?
I said men too.
Nisha, she say, so let's bottom line this. There's an obvious disconnect for men when it comes to sex and intimacy, and the two are not one and the same. Fucking and having sex with someone or two are two different things. Your two heads do not work as one. Why is the expectation that the women meet all these criteria and expectations, but you men get to freely do whatever whatever without judgment? You care what I do, but not what you do. That's backwards.
Yeah, that's
okay. Let me.
That's called patriarchy, and so with patriarchy, it automatically links a hierarchy to where there are folks who believe that the man is over the woman, and so whatever we do is right, and whatever we do to you, the results lie with you. But the bottom line is, when you talk about personal responsibility, it lands on each individual, the man or the woman. It takes the man and the woman to have a particular act. And when one is doing something that the other one doesn't want, then that's where you have that disconnect. So yeah, you're talking about personal responsibility, and that's what one of the things we probably have to heighten in our community. And that's what happens with Make a Chess Move, with teaching personal responsibility and being conscious of the moves that you're making.
Yeah, and Brother Jeff, I couldn't agree with you more. I was gonna say that I think that I'm a believer in balance. I think not all stereotypes are good, but certain are. And I think that natural reserved behavior that we usually want in a wife, that conservative like behavior we want in a wife, and until men start valuing those women more, until we take the responsibility to uplift the women in our community that that are not showing promiscuous behavior up front so that it damages our children. Until we as men decide to uplift those kind of women, it's our fault. It's 100% our fault, because I feel like at the end of the day, us men have to realize that a lot of the damage that is caused in this world is our fault. So we have to take more of a lead in taking 70-30 of the battle, 75-25 of the battle. I think it's real bullshit that a lot of men in my generation want, well, we got to go 50-50 with these women. Nah, that's bullshit, because a lot of the damaging things that we did to these women was 100% us and 0% them. So it's on us men. Us men have got to start uplifting and valuing real connection and real intimacy with women versus just valuing our nut. But that takes also other older men showcasing that. Like, one thing that makes Uncle Phil so unique is that he's always led by example in multiple areas of life, and this is one of them for me. And just how he's always been open and expressive as using discretion with sex. He was always preaching that to us when we was hella young, Emmanuel. Like, you need to understand discretion with sex, and we need our elder men telling us, stop seeing us pull up with the fine girl at every barbecue and be like, damn, nephew, you got you another one. Nah, check the nigga and be like, nigga, why are you bringing 10 different women through here to the family like that? Now she know where everybody lay their head. Now she know who everybody is. Like, that's how the OGs used to come at me. Like, I can't just bring a bunch of women to my mama's house. I couldn't even cheat on my girl in high school. My mom and my stepfather, they checked me at the door like, we're not gonna allow you to create.
Now, Huff, I gotta jump in there, bro, because that's a matter of preference. You know what I mean? Like, so this is my thing. We can sit up here and we can philosophize on, how men should, take our time and, go ahead and, uplift the woman and make sure that we're valuing the right things. But this is one of the biggest things that I think we forget to do as a people. As humans, we trump on the fact that we have a brain and we can think through all of these things, but we are still animals, 100%, which means that we still have some things that are really dictated by our nature and, just by, straight up, just who we are as people. And I mean, one thing that I have to be real about, and one thing that I have to always ask, just because you sit and you talk to a woman and you get to know her the whole way through before y'all have sex does not guarantee that y'all gonna have a fruitful and healthy relationship. I've had sexual relationships with women where the sex has jumped in off the back, and it's ended up being some of the best relationships that I've ever had in my life. Mm-hmm. On the flip side, I've had sexual relationships with women where we shouldn't have jumped into it that quick. My point of saying all of that is that you can't generalize. And just because even if we take a step back and we go, all right, well, we're going to take this amount of time to get the woman, we're going to hold sex up in this value, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're still going to go forward and necessarily have just a fruitful relationship. You know what I mean? And as men, I think that one of the biggest things, like, once again, like valuing the chaste woman, the woman who doesn't necessarily wear provocative clothes, I think we're lying to ourselves. I've seen a lot of men go after that in a wife, and that's what pushes them out the house at night looking for something else, because they're not being honest with who they are and what their needs really are. The truth of it is that you have to find some balance as a woman within that. I need the woman who can be that woman that I need in front of family, but I also need a woman who can handle my carnal desires, who is actually, you know what I'm saying, sexy to me in a way where when we actually have sex and when we do those things, that I'm actually fulfilled. And I think that, you know, we can sit here once again and we can sit on the top of things in the clouds, but, you know, I want to bring us back down, you know, because me personally, as a man, I know there's certain needs that it's hard, that even in my relationship now, I have a woman that, you know what I'm saying, she's a good girl in certain respects. Now we have different, you know, we have some issues in our relationship, but my point is saying is that you have to satisfy all of a man's nature. You can't just expect us to value values. You know what I mean? Like at a certain point, I'm gonna want to do some, you know what I'm saying, maybe some lascivious type shit. You know what I'm saying?
Can I rebut real quick? I just want
a woman. Huff, before y'all continue, y'all know that's our time. You know what I mean? So what we gonna do? We have part 1 on Tuesday. Part 2. All right. So part 1 was the black women. Part 2 was the black men. We're gonna put it all together for part 3, and we're gonna tap back in with y'all for part 3.
Hey,
right?
hey, King,
I love y'all brothers.
Hey, for all of you, I gotta just tell you, Betty, to what James was talking about is Betty Wright said, "I was learning my man while I was earning my man." It's something that you young girls just might not understand. And so, part two will be deep.
That's the home flow game right there, brother Jeff. I need to take that to a couple in my phone real quick.
Yeah.